Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we're taking a look at another new Kaiser, and this is one that has rather impressed me from the moment I took it out of the box, got it in my pocket, took it for some rides in the pocket. This one here is the Kaiser Torngat. Now, before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some overall specs on this knife right here. We have an overall length coming in at 8 inches with a blade length coming in at 3.35 inches and a blade thickness of 110 thousandths. Blade width on this guy is 1.13 inches with a blade material of S35VN and a very nice Tanto blade shape and an even nicer compound grind on this guy, which we'll talk more about when we get to the blade, of course. We have a handle length coming in at 4.65 inches and a handle thickness coming in at 460 thousandths. Handle material on this guy, if you haven't noticed it, is all titanium. Very nice. Kind of a throwback to the older premium Kaisers, the way they would kind of do their premium titanium models. We'll talk more about that later too, because there's something that I really like about this little theme Kaiser has going here. We have a frame lock for the locking mechanism, and we have a user of a right hand only tip up carry, a weight coming in at 4.2 ounces, designed by Jonathan Stiles, and a price at $159. I have a very strong point to make about this $159 at the end of the video, more on my overall thoughts, because I think there's something that we really need to remember about this this pricing that Kaiser has for the, we'll call them a higher end premium, and I say that just based off the materials, but there's something that I really like about that. And again, we'll hit on that when we get to the overall thoughts at the end of the video. But a quick little fun note about the name of this knife, Torngat. So when I did the unboxing of this, I wasn't too sure what to call it. You know, so sometimes the words aren't always what they sound like. Sometimes it's Torngat, sometimes it's Torngat, sometimes it's Torngate, who knows? So anyway, I unboxed it, and I think I said Torngat, and Mr. Jonathan Stiles himself shortly messaged me on Instagram and said it's Torngat, and the name Torngat is named after the Torngat Mountains in northern Labrador, which is part of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, where he is from, and I believe where he lives to this day. So very exciting. And of course, when he told me that, you guys know, a lot of you probably know, I'm pretty big into travel and hiking especially, so I had to get on Google and take a look at these Torngat Mountains, and I gotta tell you, I have a new travel destination I want to go to, and that is absolutely the Torngat Mountains, because they are absolutely beautiful. And it was really cool to actually see some of the resemblances, some of the lines and angles and points of the mountains. You really do kind of see that in the overall character and influence design of this knife, which is really cool. I thought that was awesome, and it was definitely worth sharing. So when you're done with this video, Google Torngat Mountains, take a look at them. They're gorgeous, and you'll see just a little reflection, a little hint of this knife in those mountains. Really cool. Size comparisons. Let's do some size comparisons and let's compare it. There's really just a couple knives that I think will tell a lot about the length and size of this knife, and we'll go straight to these two. We have the Spyderco PM2, and we have the Spyderco, whoa, how did I botch that? Botch the Spidey hole, the Para 3. Now, when I was doing the unboxing, I said this knife reminded me of another very popular knife, and I gotta say, it was the PM2. First time I saw this guy, I kind of thought Tanto PM2. I got some Tanto PM2 vibes. Obviously, very different knives. It's very clear where the inspiration for this knife comes from, but if you like a Spyderco PM2, and you want a Tanto and you like Kaiser, this is a pretty easy yes in terms of should I check it out, because it really is nice, and with that frame lock, it gives you the great strength and still has kind of those PM2 vibes going on. A couple other ones worth referencing here if you're more of just a Kaiser collector or buyer. We have the Drop Bear as well as the Kaiser Escort here, which is another great size comparison. Excuse me. So actually, maybe the PM2 is the best size comparison of all of them, especially from the handle and blade shape length or blade length. With the blade cut out, it's a good reference, but there you go. There's your size comparisons. Sometimes size comparisons are really good. Sometimes they're a little clunky. maybe this one was a little clunky, or maybe it was just the reviewer. Most likely just the reviewer. Anyway, let's get back to this knife and let's talk about this blade here, because what we have is another very, very well executed Kaiser blade from a couple points. First off, the blade shape, which is all credit to Jonathan Stiles. I think this is a great blade design, great blade shape. Love the swedge, love kind of the swoop down to the point. A nice robust tip, but at the same time, a nice slicey edge. You have a compound grind here. What is a compound grind? If you're new to the knife world, or if you just don't know, a compound grind is two different types of grind. So compound is two. We have a hollow grind along the flat, and this hollow grind comes down to a very impressive just over 16, about 16 and a half thousandths behind the edge. And then up here on the flat grind, up here towards the tip, you have an edge reading coming in at 19 thousandths. So even where it's a little thicker, it still has that little bit of sliciness to it. This is a fantastic blade. And the S35 will hold a good edge and sharpen up easily. Gives you a lot of really good qualities. So excellent steel, excellent blade design, and excellent grind from Kaiser. This blade really is good to go in a lot of ways. And the most surprising part of this blade to me was this blade cutout here. Because when I saw this blade, I told myself, okay, well, it better be able to middle finger flick good, because that's all I'm gonna be able to do with it. Had no idea I was gonna be able to do that. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the action, but that was one of the most impressive, surprising elements of this knife to me, from not only a fidget standpoint, but just an overall functional, usable standpoint. It's always nice to have multiple deployment options, so when I can thumb flick it and middle finger flick it and literally enjoy both of them just as much as the other, that's a huge, huge plus for me. Another very, very nice aspect of this blade is the jimping. You have jimping not just at the top here, but all the way back here. So as we get into the ergos, you're going to see there's a couple different positions that you can put your thumb around on this blade, and it's really good back here. You still get some of the good bite from the jimping, and you put it on top, you'll still get, obviously, even more jimping for some good traction. So love the jimping up here, and I think this is worth noting for a lot of other knife designs. Like, some people worry about putting too much jimping on a blade and having it look just ugly or not good. I think this looks absolutely fine, and I really think it gives the blade some really good character with all the jimping and the curves and the aggressive tanto and compound. This really is a beautiful blade. I'm a big fan. Now going into the handle and ergos on this guy. Overall, the ergos are good. I don't have any complaints in terms of how it feels in hand. All the points where you're actually, where they're touching your hand, or any end points are nice and either beveled or chamfered or smooth. No points, nothing sticking me, no hot spots. I have one issue with the handle of this knife, and it's right here. Now, there's a couple things about this, and it's not the pocket clip itself. The pocket clip is good. Retention is good enough. It is no hot spot in the hand. You guys know I'm a sucker for a good milled clip, and I think this is overall a pretty good milled clip. It's the inlay, and as you can see it, the inlay on this clip, which it's very much not like Kaiser, but it's kind of like marred up. It was like that out of the box. I didn't quite pick up on it right away from the unboxing. I noticed it, but I didn't think it was as big of a deal until the more I looked at it. It's very noticeable. Now, what I will say about this is, obviously, if I paid for this, I wouldn't be too happy, and I'm sure Kaiser would take care of you. Kaiser's customer service is fantastic. But yeah, it's not very Kaiser-ish. This is not the norm that you're going to see on Kaiser. So I would not expect to see this on any other models. I think this just slipped past QC, to be totally honest. I think obviously it's supposed to be totally flat, but it's just it's not. It's marred up. I think it's a kind of a defective little inlay piece that got coated or anodized, whatever that is. I think it is anodized. If it's titanium, it's probably anodized. But the marring and uneven finish there is not good. I wouldn't expect to see it on any of the other ones, but since it's on this one, I have to let you guys know about it. Got to bring attention to it. But like I said, I wouldn't expect to see that on a model you would purchase. But the overall clip itself is good. Gives good kind of grip when I'm going to do the thumb flick, which we'll talk about when we get to the action. But the rest of this handle has some nice detail to it. It's got the backspacer with the built-in lanyard hole, which it looks good. I'm not a big lanyard guy, but this could be used as kind of like a pommel too. So who knows? Probably find some uses for that. The blue hints, I'm not the biggest blue guy, but I think it does look good. I would have liked to see like a dark gray here, not like a black, but kind of like just a really dark, like charcoal gray. I thought that would look really cool, like a charcoal gray pivot collar, charcoal gray backspacer, and clip insert. I think that would look a little better than blue, but that's just a pure personal preference standpoint from a color. Kind of like what we prefer in color. Everyone has their preferences. Someone probably like to see red, someone like green, who knows. I would like to see a dark charcoal color. On the inside of the handle here, you see some internal milling, which is also a good point to point out here. These are just full slabs of titanium. There's no liners in here. So very, very nice compared to the Clairvoyant. Some people don't like liners, some people do. This is very much along the side of what you see from a lot of other companies, some internal milling to reduce the weight, nice solid handle. So some really good things going on here for $159. You're definitely not getting shorted on the quality here. Other than that, it's just a very nice solid handle. I like the lines. I like how everything fits in my hand. You kind of have like this back curved area here is where all my 3 fingers are going to go, and it gives my index finger a lot of room. I can choke up if I want to, and really choke up well on that blade to use the tip if I need to, or if I want to use more of just the blade, it feels really good, kind of just in that typical kind of, maybe not completely move back, but I feel like this is more of like the natural grip position for, I think it's going to be for pretty much everybody, but it's nice to have that option to choke up or choke back, and you have that jimping to work with, and it's just really good. Another thing I really like is the frame lock access here, the lock bar access. They did a really good job on this. First of all, your lockup is rock solid. And of course, I don't think I showed this yet, but blade centering is of course on point. Good to go from a blade centering aspect. But yeah, the overall liner, or I keep saying liner lock. I'm used to dealing with liner locks lately. But the lock bar access is really, really good. As you can see, it's kind of shadows over the front scale from the back, and it has a very nice beveling there to where it makes it very easy, very enjoyable to just break that lock, and the blade just pretty much falls shut. You got to give it just a little a shake, but very, very smooth closing action, and the deployment action only gets better. I can't believe how much I enjoy the thumb flick on this. I mean, when I first got out of the box, I almost didn't even try it. I think if you go back and watch my unboxing, I kind of just do that, and I'm like, oh, okay. I think I figured something out here. Middle finger flick is obviously where it's at for me. It's definitely my go-to, but I have found myself sitting around flicking it with my thumb because it really is that easy to just flick it out with your thumb. The detent is dialed in on this, and like I said, you get the pocket clip back there that gives you a good amount of clip to grab onto without pressing on the lock bar. Obviously, if you press down the lock bar real hard, that can affect it, but it's still not it's not a very touchy lock bar. It's not one that's gonna like completely lock the blade if you have a little pressure on there, but having that nice wide clip back there makes it very easy to not have to worry about that. And I tell you what, once you figure out how to just kind of kick it out like that, let me try and get it all in the camera. It's very, very easy, very enjoyable, and overall fantastic action on this guy. Overall thoughts on this knife are very good. I knew I liked the design of it. The moment I saw it, I was like, ooh, that's a design. It's really just like the Clairvoyant. This and the Clairvoyant coming out at the same time was really a bit of a little bomb from Kaiser, because very new designs, very fresh, very unique. They're both great, and I like this one just as much, but I really do like the price point on this one, as well as the materials. Going back to my thoughts on the price, let's rewind the clock back 2-3 years before inflation started to really set in, as Kaiser was starting to get kind of up towards its peak of like the premium models. How much were premium Kaisers back in the day? And by back in the day, I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, a premium Kaiser with S35VN, titanium, and even the blue highlights like you see on this, they ranged anywhere from $150 to $190 from the best, to my recollection. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were 150 to 190. And I even remember some other models being a little north of 200, maybe 210, 220. This guy right here coming in at $159 is very, very nice. It's like the inflation didn't affect Kaiser that much. Maybe it did, and maybe they just had bigger margins back in the day, but either way, one way or the other, they're keeping their prices manageable. They're keeping them affordable for the user and the consumer, and I think that's awesome. Everyone's going to have different opinions on that, but what I know at the end of the day was 3 years ago, this knife would have been about 150, 160 bucks, and it's $59 3 years later after inflation ravaged the knife industry, after Benchmade did all sorts of crazy markups recently, after even other Chinese manufacturers have bumped some of their prices up. Kaiser has stayed very fair in the pricing of this. I have no issue with the price of this. I'm very happy with the price of this, and I'm just really glad to see that. I hope it continues. I hope we don't see any crazy markups from Kaiser. I don't think we will. I think if we would have probably already seen them, because this was very fresh from a recent release, so that would have been affected. So I just really like that. I think it was a nice reminder for everyone because, you know, inflation has hit a lot of things and it's been significant, but the fact that this knife is still the same price it is now as it probably would have been 3 years ago, that says a lot. I think that's really cool. I think the knife in general is fantastic. Excellent execution, great design from Mr. Jonathan Stiles, and overall one I would absolutely recommend, and definitely not going anywhere. Definitely going to stick around in the collection for quite a while. That's it, guys. The Kaiser Torngat. Let me know what you think of this one. Really hope you enjoyed this. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and until the next one, I'm out.